Okay, welcome to my little channel that I'm creating right now. Um, okay, welcome. We're going to talk about buildings. I love thinking about buildings. I do it day and night. I talk to everyone that I can about them. So on this channel, I'm going to draw and talk about buildings, just like Bob Ross did with his paintings. Not from a know-it-all standpoint, but just from a sense of I really want a community. I want to create a sense of community that kind of talks about these things. I'm going to work through design projects that I have, and my hope is that others in the community, in the comments, whatnot, will offer projects that they need, maybe a little bit of assistance on, and we can think through those as well. A lot of I'm sorry, but yeah, let's just get started. One basic thing that I wanted to cover, a little shipping container model here, was the idea of foundations. I drew something the other day, but I'll just draw it again because that's the whole point of this show or this channel. Foundations, right? If this is your building, say you're gonna make a tiny house out of a shipping container, you could create a foundation in three basic ways that I see. You could bury it in the earth, meaning you dig out a chunk of earth and then you stick that building into that section. That's one way to do a foundation. Another would be to create a slab or foundation of some sort, maybe poured concrete, maybe rock, something strong, something heavy that you can place that building upon. Lastly would be what I call like stilts, where you'd create some columns and place your building up on top of those. Just briefly discussing maybe why you would use one over the other. Well, this has to do with a lot of water, maybe coastline, maybe dealing with flooding. To get you up off the ground, these columns would ideally be able to withstand the water and keep your building safe. You might also use this for very uneven terrain. Slab is kind of the most basic and just flat ground. It's whatever. Very easiest, probably. Arguably. Most straightforward. And the burying it is good for, I think, protection from other elements like wind, weather, cold, hot. You can use the thermal mass of the earth around the building to regulate its temperature. So, just a quick little discussion about that. And now I've already just picked in my head which one I'm going to do today as an example of working through one of these buildings. And we're going to do this one over here, and let's just get to it. So I have a situation in my mind, and it's a piece of land that slopes up quite a bit. So in section, which is looking at the whatever you're talking about from the side and then actually like cutting through it, if you will. So in section, we'll say that this land goes up quite a bit. And I want to bury a building in here that looks out on the nice view that's this way. So what I want to do in this situation is I want to cut this out, excavate this out, do it about like that. My situation that I have in mind is actually a little bit different, and I'll talk about that specific situation. So that's maybe how you could do it. This situation is, we're going to change it up a little bit and say that the building is a little bit more like this. This is what we're going to cut out. and looking at it from the side. We're going to stick our building in there. And then sticking up from this, we're not going to bury it completely. There is going to be the sides of the building exposed. It will have a roof on it. So we'll do that for our little drawing here. Looking at it in section. I almost drew Nebraska, where I'm located. Anyway. Okay, now how I'm deciding to build this house is with a method that's used hay bales or straw bales and then covers those in cob. You may have heard of cob houses. You may have heard of straw bale houses. That creates a wall that is rather wide, maybe 2.5 feet wide, and it is actually structural as well. If you do, the cob can have structural components, the hay bales can have structural components, but that's just how I just want to build this building out of hay bales. So sorry for all the talking and no drawing, let's draw it out. So if this is, okay, so we cut this out of this earth. This goes down, this comes out, this comes down. Okay, so that's what we cut away. We're going to come back and put a building in there. So what I'm talking about with these hay bales, and it sounds a little wild, I know. It sounds rudimentary, if that's a good word for it. It sounds like something a kid would do. I don't care. It's, with what I'm doing here, I want to make buildings and whatnot more accessible. I want us humans to feel capable when it comes to our own houses and buildings and structures. I think we are capable, and I want us to tap back into that and build upon it. So I'm open-minded when it comes to building from new things, building from what makes the most sense. Okay, so this is now the outline of our hay bales. So picture this as being 2.5 feet thick. And it's going to, we're going to say, that's a hay bale, that's a hay bale, that's one, and there's 2 rows. Above ground here at the back and sides, this is, we're going to say, is 2 rows, 2 full rows of hay bales before it starts to tuck into the earth, be buried. So my idea is to not have to build the walls all the way up. If you weren't to bury this, you would have to buy or get hay bales to build these walls back, and sides. So we're taking out about 70% of the walls by just using the earth. And then we're using hay bales, which is hopefully pretty cheap. I haven't used it, but I've done research, and I don't think people are spending tons of money building these buildings. So there's that. So, and then the front of this building is a lot of glass and windows, is the way I've pictured it in my head, and drawn it a couple times, I'll be honest. I draw these in my head, I draw them on paper, I dream about buildings. That's why I wanted to create this little community, so that I could flush some things out with some like-minded folks. So it's all about the comments. It's all about just learning from one another. Okay. Little happy buildings. Okay, so now we have our hay bales in place. right? I think there needs to be another one back there. Okay, you with me? The recording, hopefully. Everybody, is this working? Yeah, hopefully. Okay, let's keep going. Now, I love the idea of when we talk about these buildings, let's talk about the whole thing. When we can, the energy, the water, the all elements. So I'm a huge. It rains where I'm at. Let's catch the water and let's use it to our benefit before we release it back to the earth. I don't live in a place that is water strict right now. I don't have any laws against doing that, and I don't feel morally bad about doing that because all the water will be released back into the earth. I'm just going to catch it, use it, and then release it. So not really hurting anybody or anything, in my opinion. Okay, so with that in mind, what I'm going to prescribe we do is we add a little bit of a slope to this roof. Always, usually a good idea, especially if you live somewhere where it precipitates, snow or rain. Okay, so the point of doing that is the water will land and roll to the back, right? So on the back is this is just a basic explanation of what water catchment system is. So the water will land, roll to the back, go into the gutter, and then we're gonna bury a tank. We're gonna have a water tank. Okay, this is water tank, and it's strategically up above the level of the sink or any plumbing fixture that you would use in this place so that it can just be gravity fed if that's what you want. You can obviously add a pump and all that, but this could be a gravity fed system. Catch it up high. You already have the advantage of this hill, so if you leave your water tank up high, it's just like a water tower. The reason the water is up in the tower is to create water pressure. I'm not trying to like go over like silly stuff, but I think you never want to assume what people know or don't know. And like I said, this isn't like an expert class. It's not a course. I'm not trying to show off with what I know. I'm just describing some things to make them more approachable for everyone. Just doing my best, trying to make this. Okay, so this is a water tank. Looks weird. I don't know why I drew it like that. So water goes in and then is plumbed into the house right here. And then it can be used for the sink, whatever. Yada, yada, yada. So that's how we're going to do the water on this one. Easy. Simple. And electrical could be done many different ways. I think I just wanted to talk about the water because of this ability to catch it and bury it. Like this could even be buried completely under the ground. Again, I should have drawn this better. Maybe there's just like a tiny little, or not tiny, but like a little access port to the tank, and then it's actually buried more like that, so you don't see it, and it still can be plumbed out. I'm guessing you want to come off the bottom, but you get the picture, hopefully. Water tank, electrical, you plug it in. You could run electrical from the city's municipal power district if you have that option. You could run solar by putting panels up on top. You could put a wind turbine. If you've got a river nearby, you could do hydropower. We can talk more about that. I just don't think this is the time. We're going to focus on how to build this building. So, okay, the big picture, the big question is structure with these hay bales, right? So what I would think I would do is, to make this happen, is I would come in with some beams that go across. So now we know we're going to have a slight slope to this. So now we've got some interesting either hay bales. Yeah, we'll say some interesting hay bale work to get this. We're gonna have like some wedges. Basically, it's gonna, right? That making sense? Okay. So I say that to say, how are we going to build the structure across the roof? How are we going to span this roof? Because it's maybe 14 feet from there to there, maybe 12 feet from there to there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a column. Columns are vertical. Joists and beams are horizontal. So I'm going to add a column sistered right up to this side. Same thing over here. Now I'm going to repeat that probably in the middle twice. And I'm kind of thinking as I do this, I don't know if you can tell, about how I'd actually do it. But okay, so those are some columns. And like I said, there's gonna be a lot of glass, doors, and windows up here. So in between these columns is glass, doors, and windows. And across the top of these columns is that beam I talked about. Okay, so we've got a beam coming across the top here. We can do a beam across the back here because it's carried all the way down through this wall. I guess these are too. And now I'm gonna have to pretend like I know that the cob slash hay bale, straw bale can be structural. I heard that can be the case, and I don't distrust them, but obviously it'd have to be proven. So we're just gonna go with the theory that it can be structural. If need be, maybe more of these sistered columns could be done on the interior of these walls, or even within the hay bales themselves, if you felt like you need more of a strength, more of a hard connection. Okay, so anyway, that's gonna carry our load from side to side, and then we're gonna come in with cross braces, I guess, this way. Joists, maybe a better word for them. And then just on top of that would be our steel roof, or whatever it's going to be. Obviously built within there is going to be a lot of insulation and whatnot, but that's the basic big bones of the structure. In architecture school, I learned about two words that are called stereotomic and tectonic. I was just thinking about them the other day, and they represent the idea of just kind of big and small. Like if you had like toothpicks versus rocks, or a bicycle versus a Mack truck. You know, just the scale and the power of those things. You can kind of use those same principles when thinking about the architecture, and you want to think about the big picture items first. And that's kind of what this little conversation channel is going to be about, is the big picture stuff, where we will maybe get down into the nitty-gritty at times, but big picture, you know, like bird's eye view type things. So these are the, I can't even remember which one was which. I think well, hey, comment section, let me know, or maybe I'll Google it and let y'all know. But one's big, one's little, and so these are the big moves. Thinking about these and just all these getting a little sloppy. I realize that, but you know, that's part of it. Hopefully it's there's a message coming through. Have a little bit of fun, throw some color on there to represent those. Represent this as glass. Okay, so we did one example. We talked about a few different foundations. We talked about water tanks. We talked about rain catchment. We didn't get into the nitty gritty. We talked about hay bale houses. Okay, so this would be cladded with cob, I'm sorry, not cod, not fish, cob, which is a mixture of earth, clay, and straw. So if you picture making a nice clay, and then the straw acts as like fibers that actually holds the clay together once it all dries. And it has to be the right mixture of clay. You can't just throw some dirt, and it has to be the right consistency. But if you create that consistency and then add a little bit of straw, like I said, as the fiber that binds it, almost like a little bit of rebar, can actually be pretty strong. So you take that mixture and you would apply it, I mean, by hand, by shovel, however you want to do it, to the exterior and interior of all of the straw bale. I've seen people use like a weed whacker and knock off some of the straw that's like sticking out, to make it a little bit smoother of a surface to apply your cob to. But you would just cake this thing in that, like frosting a cake, and smooth it out or whatnot. And you take a chainsaw and you cut out your holes right in the, say you had a window right here, and say this was, say it didn't land, it didn't land right where a hay bale was. You didn't have a hay bale shaped window. You would just take a chainsaw and cut that thing out, and then reinforce with wood to create your sill and frame for your window to slide into. Comment if you'd like to see a specific building. Comment away, create community. If I get, I just love to talk about this stuff. So I'm about done talking at this point with this first one. Thanks for watching, and we'll do another something next time.